I believe the skin actually is a representation of what's going on in your body inside out.
Hmm.
Why am I going to keep doing something if it's not working?
Yeah.
I
We
want something that's going to go at the cellular level, right? So
mhm. Yeah, we call it actually homeostatic skincare. What is your view on things like Botox and fillers with the vantage point of holistic health?
I believe that we have one life to live. We should all live it. And if we are feeling great, we can do better. And in fact, that's called biohacking itself,
Yeah.
because studies have shown that stress and emotional trauma has been linked to disease.
All right, Jesse, welcome to the Biohacking Beauty Podcast. It's a
Thank
pleasure having you on.
The pleasure is mine. It's such an honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the first time we met was about less than a month ago in the Biohacking Congress in Miami.
That's correct.
And we had some very interesting conversations. And in general, you're a very interesting person. So we wanted to make sure we're having you on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So maybe we can start by, if you could describe us your journey from a medical radiation therapist to an integrative biohacker. I don't know if it's from to or a combination, but I'm very interested on how your multifaceted experience influenced your approach to your job and to in general, like the way you address your own health.
Mhm. That's a great question. And thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah.
So, I've grown up knowing that I've always wanted to work in cancer care. Since I was 7, I boldly stated, I'm going to help cure cancer.
Wow.
So, I had a very narrow minded approach towards it. But of course, growing up in the Caribbean, life is a lot different. So, I was exposed from a very young age to the simpler, healthier life. We ate really well. Um, my dad was ex-military, so encouraged a lot of fitness. That was always part of my lifestyle.
Hmm.
The program that I took was through University of Toronto, Faculty of Medicine, and the Michener Institute in Canada. So it required that I had to leave the country.
Hmm.
Left there, also continued my fitness lifestyle because trying to adjust to the weather. The core values in me believe that truly if you're, going back to nature, that's the best optimal way. So
Yeah.
in a way, I think I've always had a bit of biohacking in me. But it became prevalent, I suppose, while I was in my medical career.
Hmm.
Working in that environment, while I do believe that there is a role for medical, or I suppose conventional medicine, we are lacking a lot in the holistic world, the two of them meeting.
Yeah.
It's my opinion, and I know a lot of people might not feel that way, but that's truly how I feel. I ended up doing a certification in nutrition in about 2012, and I tried integrating that. And then when I did my master's in radiation oncology, I focused on exercise and cancer.
Hmm.
So I had big dreams of bringing, I became a certified cancer exercise specialist, and I had big goals and dreams of trying to integrate because I truly believe that there was a way in which we could do this. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out the way I had anticipated. Fast forward, as with everybody else, COVID happened. I worked 2 years straight, burnout hit, couldn't handle it. And the family and everyone said, why don't you just take some time off? So I took time off. I took a leave of absence and moved back to Barbados. And during that process, I ended up working for a private company, and a large focus of that was in biohacking.
Hmm.
And it was actually my brother who sat me down one day 6 months into it, and he recognized my passion for biohacking and he encouraged me. He goes, "Why don't you try pursuing this as a career? Like you could actually make something of it." And I was on the fence. I said, "I don't really know." Like I was a health coach for 15 years, doing them both in tandem. I don't know.
Yeah.
Took a stab at it, decided to go to the Dave Asprey conference in June, and here we are today.
Yeah, indeed.
Mhm.
And this is I mean, this is, I feel like you are the minority of biohackers, I feel like, because normally what happens is person has their own health challenges
Mhm.
where they find that allopathic medicine has failed them somehow. It
Mhm.
could be, it could be mentally, it could be physically, it could be the way they were treated, it could be the way they they felt while, you know, going under whatever treatment they were on, the lingering effects of those. They feel
Mhm.
like it's an incomplete journey, and they find, you know, biohacking or whatever, you know, other wellness journey they find, and then they're saying, wow, I'm sure there are a lot of other people like me, and they kind of tap into that community. And similar to me, I feel like the road you're on is a road less traveled, which comes first and foremost from your interaction or your treatment of other people, and seeing how this world of biohacking
Mhm.
can benefit them, either, as you said, in tandem, or, you know, more than something else. So it's
Mhm.
very interesting to once in a while talk to someone like you, because there are many people that are going through that journey.
They are, and it's a bit of a struggle, and I know I sit in silo in my
Hmm.
community, but I'm okay with that. It's actually those that have, for whatever has come their way, whether it's a disease, chronic condition, whatever it is. And I mean, I've been a health coach for 15 years on the side. So trying to help them through that, hearing their journeys is actually what makes me feel I could be doing more. Like
Hmm.
in my world, why am I getting into the point where they're already sick? I
Yeah,
want to be at the preventative point. And I know I'm crazy in thinking this, but I truly believe that at an epigenetic level, we really can prevent half of what's happening to us. In
for
fact,
sure.
probably all. Um, so that's in part what's influenced my journey because I've been doing this to myself. I've been doing it, helping out my family and friends and those that have sought my guidance for the last 17, 18 years. And now I'm just like, okay, well, why don't I just try to help more people? So it took a while for me mentally to adjust to that shift that, okay, am I okay with giving up my medical career working as an advanced practice radiation therapist? That's what I dreamed
Hmm.
of doing since I was 7. Now it took me a while, but my mindset is, well, now I can help people from a different angle. And since June, the amount of people that I've been helping that's come back to me and be like, this is, you did this. I didn't know about this. This has helped. I'm like, okay, well, so it's not a big grand gesture like, wow, I'm helping save cancer today, but it actually is more empowering knowing that I'm helping people make little changes and I'm learning in the process. Others are helping me learn along the way. And this
Yeah,
biohacking community is fantastic. Like I feel different in this community than I have in any others before. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, obviously, it's extremely important to be in the front lines of battling cancer, if you would. But you know, I really equate it to providing financial aid. It's obviously very important to volunteer. A lot of people are, you know, for their whatever they wherever they are in life, they're flying to Africa and they're digging wells or whatever that
mhm,
is, right? Or providing medicine. Um, or they're doing it in their communities. But as one person, your contribution will always be limited to what you can do with your two hands, your mouth, or whatever. When you build a community, and when you're building something that is preventative, you're actually the reverberation of your work can help significantly more people. And prevention, obviously, is as we say, an ounce of prevention is better than a gallon of cure. I don't know how
mhm,
you say that, but yeah. Um, you know, going into into what we're interested in a little bit in this podcast,
mhm,
um, how do you, so, you know, from your specialization and focus on nutrition and exercise and working with cancer patients, how do you integrate these elements into your biohacking protocols at the moment, and also, you know, around skin health?
So that's a really good question, and that's something that I have to admit I'm new to the skin health world in the sense of the biohacking skincare
Yeah.
world. So I am very tentative about it with respect to my clients at the moment because I do want to become a little bit more
Yeah.
familiar from my own. But so in answering part of your question, can I go back and say how I came across you guys?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, because I feel like that would help set the tone a little bit.
Yes, yes, yes.
So part of my approach has been a holistic approach. There's a time and place, of course, for medicine, but in a
Hmm.
large part to my everyday life, it's holistic, and that's what I train with my clients. My patients, I've had some patients that I've taken not from the hospital, but privately that I've helped throughout their journey.
Hmm.
And it's encompassing holistic, which can include skincare. So for a large part of that, it was, of course, using non-toxic product, using
Yeah.
organic products. And I was the same. Yucca app everywhere, scanning this. Okay, this is really great. I'm going to use this. Um, but unfortunately, I had a bit of a wake-up call during the pandemic, and specifically because I was wearing a mask, as with
Hmm.
most frontline workers. My skin did not take to that. And I guess obviously to the age that I was at, sunspots start appearing. And,
Hmm.
in the hospital setting, I'm exposed to artificial light every day. All of a sudden, it started manifesting itself. And I know this didn't happen overnight, but I felt like I was all of a sudden seeing it. So I
Wow.
recognized, okay, organic is not working for me. I've got a couple of dermatologists in the family, and they recommended medical grade. So I switched over. Part of me just never truly felt comfortable, but let's be honest, I'm still a female and I'm still going to be a little
Yeah.
vain and I still want to look a certain way. And I believe the skin actually is a representation of what's going on in your body inside out.
Hmm.
So I switched and things were going great. I was getting the results that I wanted. My skin became under control. But again, still didn't really sit well with me. And then earlier on this year, as I was trying to expand my knowledge, I've always been listening to the big podcasts on biohacking, like all the big groups of
Yeah.
people. But I wanted to find more. So Google search, find more, and I came across you guys. So one day I'm walking on the beach listening and I'm hearing about NAD and this biohacking skincare line. So of course my interest is piqued. Being the researcher that I am, I go down the rabbit hole and then I come out. I'm like, okay, this is great. He's speaking my language. They're speaking my language. I'm at a cellular level. This is a
Yeah.
skincare line that's targeting at a cellular level. So I drank the Kool-Aid and here I am. But I don't know enough about it. Like I don't feel confident enough yet to speak on it. And I always like to test subject myself first before
For
recommending it.
sure.
I actually just ran a seminar yesterday in Barbados on
Wow.
biohacking. So I had quite a few people inquiring because I did say there are skincare products you can use transitioning over. But so in a way that's half answering your question because I'm not fully there yet. Um, I do take knowledge quite seriously. So I'd like to be a little bit more versed and have a little bit more experience before sharing that aspect of it.
For sure. I mean, first of all, I agree with you. And I think there is something magical about being vulnerable or being what we call in Hebrew half baked, basically, and
Okay.
talking from a point where you're saying, this is what I'm experiencing
Mhm.
right now where I am in my journey. It's not, I don't know all the answers. I didn't speak to God recently, but that is what I am experiencing right now. Follow me basically for more as I go through this journey.
Mhm.
So you mentioned I transitioned to grade skincare after trying like organic or clean skincare,
Mhm.
because and that kind of falling short. Um, I'm uninterested, like where you're right now. What specific attributes of biohacking skincare have you found most speaking to you or most beneficial?
Mhm.
And maybe some clear examples of what made a difference.
Okay. So I'm going to answer that, but probably not your conventional answer. I do believe
I
that
like
our
that.
I do believe that our skin, as I said before, is a reflection of everything else going on.
Yeah.
So in a large part, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to come back home, and home for me is Barbados. I've been removed
Hmm.
from the medical environment. I've been removed from working where I worked was in a bunker of the hospital. So I didn't know if it was sunshine, rain, snow, morning or night. It was the same. Blue light all day.
Yeah.
So I believe that taking myself out of a stressful environment, taking myself away from LED lighting, taking myself where I had disruptive sleep patterns because I worked on call
Yeah.
sometimes. My food meal plans were disruptive. Sometimes I went 8 hours without eating. Sometimes you ate when you could.
Yeah.
So coming back here, being able to ground on the grass, ground on the sand, go for morning walks, get my sunlight, have all of that, I believed helped make me feel better. And in a way, my skincare actually became very minimal. So I
Yeah.
use very few products right now, but it's working really well. Big factor, I'm not wearing a mask. Like my
Hmm.
skin isn't getting clogged up. It's not being exposed to all these different things. Um, so sorry, I just realized that I might be frozen there. Hopefully you can
No,
still
no,
hear
no.
me
You're
okay.
great.
Okay. So I really believe that a combination of all of this helps contribute to me having great skin.
Hmm.
Um, Nutrition, of course, big one that I missed there.
Yeah.
Nutrition, hydration. So all of that interplayed. And that's one of the things that I like to emphasize about biohacking is that it's not just if you want to work on X, it's not just going to be X. It's going to be a formulation of things that plays a role in it being X.
Yeah.
So for that, to specifically go down to skincare, because I'm on the island, I haven't really been going to get facials done. I never really was someone who got them done quite frequently because I don't really believe in having collagen overstimulation. So it'll be
Yeah.
something that I'll get on occasion, like once every 3 months. My skin's always been pretty good, with the exception of the pandemic with
Yeah.
being stuck under a mask and stress and all the other things. But for the most part, it's been really good. So here I stick to just basic my pro care, which I
Hmm.
just recently got and I love my care, my eye care, and my BioShield SPF. And that's
Yeah.
essentially my skincare routine, and it works wonders for me.
Yeah, I agree, and that is, I believe, probably what everyone in the world should use, the products that you mentioned, and then if they need to attack, no, I'm sorry for the aggressive word, but if they need to tackle something specific, then they can kind of go down that path, and obviously we provide support for that.
Mhm.
Um, and tackle a specific situation, kind of go back to that minimalist protocol. And connecting to what you said about going out of the artificial environment, I couldn't agree more that this is the major factor in overall
Mhm.
health, but especially skin health, because um, you know, on average, studies say that we evolved to be about 80% of the time outside, and what's going on right now in the world, in the Western world, is that we're 95 to 97% on average inside.
Mhm.
And that obviously is something that our systems have not evolved to deal with very well, especially if things aren't working 100% right, whatever that is, if there is
Mhm.
pollution, artificial light, you know. Um, so it's it's akin to people going on a specific diet and getting a lot like getting great results. Not
Mhm.
necessarily that the diet is good, it's everything you left behind and you're not doing anymore. The sugars, the whatever,
Exactly.
the hydrogenated seed oils or whatever it is that you're leaving behind. So that's a very, very interesting observation, the way you answer the question, which first of all is what I'm not doing, really, not necessarily what I'm doing. And then obviously the icing on the cake is these products that are corresponding with a youthful state of my
Mhm.
skin. But I couldn't agree more. Um, you do emphasize, and we talked about it off air in our previous conversations, consistent, cumulative, positive lifestyle changes.
Mhm.
Could you give me an example on how you've seen this philosophy transform someone's life? Um, Obviously, we can talk about skin health and or any other type of wellness, but I'm really interested in what it means to you or how you would explain it to someone you're consulting.
Sure. So I I'm also going to bring that back as well too to the biohacking world,
Yeah.
especially someone who's very new to it. So
Hmm.
my eyes were just recently opened from someone, their perspective. They were so overwhelmed, they didn't know where to start. And
Hmm.
it's often that analogy I'm going to relate back to those who, you walk into the gym for the first time, you want to lose weight, you don't know how, you don't know where to get started on your nutrition plan, and you're overwhelmed. Humans by nature, if they're not guided, will fall off of that pattern.
Yeah.
Or if they don't see a buy in, you have to believe that something is going to be suited to your lifestyle for it to work. And you have to have the guidance for it to work. So if you are overwhelmed and you're not going to know, you're probably going to quit. But if you
Yeah.
understand, okay, if you come here and you do X, Y, and Z, and this is going to give you X, Y, and Z, it's not going to happen overnight. I'm going to use the comparison with someone who's maybe high level working, I'd say 100 hours a week. They don't have time to do anything. They're like, I don't have time for this. Then you have to cater it to their lifestyle and then cater it to them understanding, well, if you did X, Y, and Z, small incremental changes, that could buy you a few more years of optimal health span. You could have the energy. You're no longer waking up 4 times a night with disruptive sleep. You're no longer
Yeah.
waking up in the morning where you can't function. So this is an extreme example, but it's to bring the point across that it's a combination of having that guidance to get you through, but also working for what works for your lifestyle. But you can't just stick to one thing. You can't just say, oh, I'm just going to, if I eat like this, I'll be good. How many times do we hear the same story of someone who ate really well, they lost all their weight, but they're not functioning, their skin's
Yeah.
breaking out, they're losing their hair, and they don't understand why. Well, they've calorie restricted so much that they're now nutrient deficient, or you've
Yeah.
overworked. Like, not, and this is not meant to be judgment, but an analogy is someone who's like, say, an athlete or CrossFitter, they've overtrained to the point that their body is now undergoing chronic injury. Well, how do they come
Yeah.
back from that? So all of these different things is not talking in extremes. It's talking about doing consistent daily practices, from going to bed at a set time, waking up at a set time, removing little things like, okay, if you can't remove plastics altogether, well, then don't put them in the microwave. Don't put them in the dishwasher. Drink your filtered water. So all these small little changes can actually have an impact overall. So that's what I want to say with the consistent cumulative positive changes. Because when you keep doing at it, you may not see the effect right now, but you will see it long term.
Yeah, my joke is that on average, a person consumes the equivalent of a credit card in microplastics a
Mhm.
month,
Yes.
and I'm recommending people to cut it down and try to work towards a debit card or even a gift card if they could. Uh, I'm kidding, but really, as you said, it could be overwhelming. I mean, we just talk
Yeah.
about microplastics. We can talk about. I'll try and overwhelm someone who's listening, but you also, an average American consumes about 4 pounds of lipstick a year
Mhm.
because obviously they swallow it. You have fluoride in your drinking water, and in eight glasses a day of tap water,
Mhm.
you're going to have an equivalent of a toxic dose.
Mhm.
I mean, we can run the gamut of on everything that we are talking about, and overwhelming someone is extremely easy. But I think first of all, we need to remember we had all our bad habits yesterday, and we survived.
Mhm.
And the 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 easy way is to try to fix everything at once, but that's actually the hardest way because you're not going to be consistent. There's no way. And anyone who's read Atomic Habits or any book that's supposed to tell you how to structure a positive, healthy, um, well formatted lifestyle, you do it in small increments, and
Mhm.
these small increments are the ones that stick.
Exactly. So that's why I
Yeah.
emphasize both guidance as well as consistency. So if
Yes.
you're not able to do it yourself, then reach out to someone. And there's a lot of resources available online if you can't. Just start small.
I agree, and something that I take from Simon Sinek. He said, burnout. A part of burnout is doing things in a silo alone.
Mhm.
Community And obviously, he says having someone that says, I love you unconditionally, and can tell you when things are going wrong, paraphrasing, um, is kind of the way where you can take more on yourself and not burn out. But I think, the equivalent of it is a community. Again, that's part of, like, ancient traditions in biohacking. Like, we're
Mhm.
born to be a part of a community. And obviously, the biohacking community is an amazing community, but any community that you can gather along the way and have a journey together, and also share your losses, not only your wins. I think a lot of us nowadays try to share only our wins and bury our losses in this
Mhm.
social media type society, right? Only celebrate the victories and ignore the defeats. No, it's sharing everything together, and trying to share it with the community, because even if you share your loss, maybe it doesn't affect you very well, but someone else it's going to resonate with them, and it's going to prop them up, and vice versa, someone's going to prop you up. So I think that community aspect's extremely important.
Yes, thank you for actually mentioning that because that is actually a really big key for, I think, my biohacking journey. I mean,
Hmm.
I've been on this journey for 10 years, but specifically the last year, I felt I've been at my best. And a large part of that is because, and I'm not knocking living in Toronto. I obviously chose to move there. I do love it. I have a community
Yeah.
of friends there, but COVID really reevaluated when you're a frontline worker, and especially Toronto had very stringent rules. You weren't allowed to integrate with a lot of people. And because I had patients that not just had COVID, but they had cancer, I was extra vigilant. So
Yeah.
at one point, I went 6 months without human interaction, which was
Wow.
like crazy to me. Like, I don't even know how I survived that. I look back at that and I think that's partly what broke me. And I don't want to use the word broke, but coming
Hmm.
back here to Barbados and reintegrating with childhood friends and all my family, extended family, I felt like my soul was revived again. And you hit the nail on its head. That is a biohack right there. Is community. Feeling like you're part of a community is instrumental to your physical, mental, emotional health, believe it or not.
Yes, 100%. And again, we have a whole podcast dedicated to biohacking health and skin health, right? I mean, but having said that, the best supplement, the best biohack for overall health, skin health, longevity, optimal performance, whatever that is, sleep, whatever, is actually community, is actually friendship. Okay, but we are talking about these broad stroke um, wellness practices. But the other side of it, something that I think you can give us an insight that rarely can be given, is a personalized medicine approach. So obviously, it's a cornerstone of your practice as in cancer care.
Mhm.
But how do you see, tailoring personalized medicine within the biohacking space, strategies for that? Looking at biohacking for N of one of individuals, especially, we can talk about any type of biohacking, but obviously, if someone's interested in looking better and feeling better.
Mhm. So, yes, in cancer care, my brain has been trained to everything is personalized.
Yeah.
If no two people have the same cancers, their
Hmm.
etiologies, their tumor location, all that stuff is very unique. So, I've always had that mentality with respect to everything in life. And it's the same thing too when if you take medication, it has side effects are general. One person could have this side effects, another person could have another. So adapting that philosophy, I've always believed that what works for Peter won't work for Paul. You need to look
Hmm.
at Peter as Peter and you look at Paul as Paul.
Yeah.
So when I'm approaching a client, patient, whoever, outside of the medical setting, of course, with respect to biohacking, we live in a wonderful time. 2023, with our advancement in AI and technology, is fantastic.
Yeah.
We can, do an at-home lab and get the results back that tells us in a couple of weeks that tailors to our fitness, our nutrition, and all of that. Um, if you don't have the luxury of having access to things like that or an Aura ring or any of the advanced technology. I actually
Hmm.
just spoke about it yesterday because living on an island like Barbados, you're quite limited in what you have access to. And some individuals are not as financially able to purchase those
Yeah.
things. So I always say go back to the beginning. Start um, by tracking your life, your plans, your get a diary, old school, get a diary. Write down what you're eating, track it for a week. Are you having any sensitivities? Is your stomach hurting you? Are you bloating? Are you eating out? Are you cooking? Track your sleep. Are you going to bed at the same time? Are you waking up? Are you getting disrupted at night? Do you find that you're waking up in the middle of the day that you need to have a nap? Do you need coffee? You could do all
Hmm.
that stuff for fitness, for every aspect. So you know, start tracking it, looking at that, and then you can start making the tweaks. Again, some people might get a little overwhelmed. If you do, you can seek guidance on this. That's what naturopaths and a lot of health coaches, integrative health
Hmm.
practitioners are there for, to help suss that out. And sometimes you'd be surprised the amount of people that can look at something and when you're looking at it, you could figure it out. You could be
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I actually might be allergic to this." Because then you start taking when you start seeing patterns, every time I eat this, I feel this, or every time I do this, I feel that. So that's taking it very basic, very, biohacking 101, how to get started and trying to figure out your personal information. I've
Yeah.
done it to myself and I figured out I know what works for me. Sometimes training for me, like in my lifestyle in Canada, I don't train well at the end of the day. I'm exhausted, but
Yeah.
I don't like training in the morning. Middle of the day works great for me, but that not might not be for you. So once you're able to figure that out, if of course there are underlying issues in the gut, there's always underlying issues. If you can't quite figure that out, there's just where testing needs to come in. Go to your doctor and get some functional tests done, figure out your thyroid and all that stuff. We're not talking about those extremes. We're just talking about trying to figure it out and cater it to you. So that's very
Hmm.
basic. You can get going on that. But again, we live in 2023 where we have all this advanced information that's out there that can help tailor it to us.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, you basically covered a way around sensors, I would say. Obviously, we're all in love with the Aura rings, the Insight trackers, the continuous glucose monitoring, Lumen, keto, exhaling, meters, whatever that is. And obviously, a lot more is going to come in the future. But I think, I think there is something very profound with just asking yourself how you feel different in different times of the day.
Mhm.
And I would even argue that I actually that's a good question to ask you. So you lived in Barbados now for a while. Obviously, you grew up there. You lived in Canada. I think the same activity could feel very different wherever you are, especially since you're looking at, like, I don't know, 30, 50 degrees in latitude
Mhm.
difference between Toronto and Barbados. So obviously the foods that you eat, the sun that you are exposed to, temperature. Um, have you seen any difference in the same activities in different areas?
Absolutely. It's so funny that you just asked me this because I was just talking to a friend about this recently. So after Miami, I went back to Toronto for about a week and a half and it
Hmm.
got cooler. And I was acutely aware this was going to happen. I mean, I lived in Toronto up until September 2022. So it's different, seasonal, different. Like we're now going into the winter season, the minimal light, and especially now if I throw in the factor that I am returning to the hospital setting for a few months.
Hmm.
In that environment, it's different. So I'm just going to speak to the week and a half that I was there because I noticed that I like waking up in the morning and going for grounding. Well, time change happened the day after I got to Barbados, but right before that. 8 a.m. in the morning, it's still dark. I'm walking outside. I am cold. The foods are different. And, we do have in North America access to a lot more grass fed organic products than here. I mean, you have access to it here, but you have to go to like your local farmer. Up there, you got access to more supplements and more things. So there are little joys that I have with finding that stuff, but inadvertently, less sun. It's colder outside, so I'm spending a little bit more time. And my lifestyle here in Barbados is that I spent probably 70% of my day outside, whereas there it's
Hmm.
70% of my day inside, like you can't even more. But the one thing that I did acutely notice was my body had a really hard time adjusting. It
Yeah.
was 19 degrees and then it dropped down to 2. I was bringing my winter coat out. And my friends were like, you are not going to survive this winter. Um, so of course, you sometimes forget your habits, and the biohacker in me is like, I know what I need to do. I went to Othership, which is this place that has like a cold plunge and sauna,
Yeah.
and went into the sauna. Sauna wasn't even hot enough for me. I'm like, this needs to be hotter. I'm not like my core temperature had regulated so much to like the 30-degree weather in Barbados that it wasn't hot. And then I initially went into the cold plunge. Now, cold plunging, disclaimer, should not be done if you have chronic conditions, and it's not for everybody. Certain females, cycle syncing, got to be careful.
Hmm.
But I went into the cold plunge and I had to jump out immediately. It
Yeah.
was like an instant shock to my system. I couldn't handle it. The guy there was great. He's like, you just need to breathe through this, but go take a break. I took a break, came back because I really was determined because I knew that my body would do really well with it. Came back into it and breathing through it, I instantly felt better. I
Yeah.
left there. I had 4 days left in Canada. I had completely regulated to that. So there are little things that I can adjust to it. It's not going to be the same. And like I am very lucky that I do have family here, and this is also my partial home. But the reality is, not everybody has that, and I don't want to
Yeah.
come across sounding like I'm boasting because I don't want to. I don't want it to come across that way. All I'm trying to say is you can adjust your environment as needed. So the reality is, Toronto is my home. That's where I'm going to be. So you know do the little tweaks. If this is a time of day that you do that, you work within your schedule and you work within what you have to offer. I know going back, my skin's going to change. It's
Yeah.
going to be cold weather. I know I need to add certain things into my skincare routine to make it better. I know that I need to do certain things for my sleep. So that's just the reality of it, is that you just tweak as you need to in order to make the best of the situation or the environment that you're in.
Absolutely. Very smart. I mean, that is biohacking though, right? It's
Mhm.
like, okay, that's what I that's what I evolved to react to physically, mentally, whatever. This is the environment I'm in now. How do I change my environment or my environment within myself, right? Toxicity and supplements, etc., to best supplement my biology, to best support the things that my body is born to react positively to, and obviously minimize the ones that are my body is reacting negatively to. So I mean, you
Mhm.
just described the essence of biohacking, I feel like, and the way that one can use the same principles, whether they live in Barbados, whether they live in I don't know, northern, I don't know, Norway or Canada, and wherever that is, or Miami. Um, Well, within going back to your background in cancer care, how do you address concerns about skincare ingredients and their potential risks? Um,
Mm.
well, while advocating for more advanced skincare, right? Because advanced skincare comes within it with, we're stimulating cells, we're trying to improve their function, but a lot of that also supports cancer, right? So how do we address that?
Yeah, this we're living in a really tough time now,
Yeah.
in the sense where compared to 10 years ago, our bodies are consistently exposed to a lot more toxins. I actually read something recently that anyone born in the 80s and after, they have something like 180 toxins in their system to begin with as a baby.
Hmm.
So it is definitely on the forefront. It's a concern of mine. And I recognize that I have worked with clients and I have spoken to patients in the past, and their concern is similar, where they don't want to be putting their toxins in their body, but it's also we want to preserve our youthfulness. We want
Yeah.
to, have that appearance. So I'm going to fully admit I did not use sunscreen until I was in my mid 30s because I had such a hard time with it putting it in my skin. I really
Yeah.
did. And I know that every esthetician and like I have quite a few friends that are in dermatology and family, and they were like, "What are you doing? Like your great aunt is one of the top dermatologists in Canada. What are you doing?" But I just really felt to my core that it just, you know, paid the price for it. I now have sunspots, but I think you just have to kind of do what works best for you and realize that this is why biohacking and it's become so exciting to me is because I look at things at a cellular level. I'm
Yeah.
not just looking at what I'm putting in right now, how it's going to make me look tomorrow. I like to look ahead to the future. I want to see what's happening to my cells.
Yeah.
Um, so in a way, it's sort of like a circular argument. Yes, we're in an environment right now which is a lot more tricky. We're exposed to LED all the time, which has got damaging effects in our skin. I may not be living in Barbados, I'm probably in North America, less sun, but still like
Yeah.
the everyday toxins. But then on the flip side of that, we are in a like the forefront of technology where you have access to better things. So it's I look at things out at an epigenetic level.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be too late for me, maybe not, but for whoever it is that's listening and whoever wants that, at the end of the day, you have to do what you're comfortable with. But
Hmm.
do your due diligence, do your research. And for me, I found that my happy medium was looking at for skincare that wasn't necessarily the organic stuff wasn't working for me. So I rationalize it to myself, why am I going to keep doing something if it's not working?
Yeah.
I
We.
want something that's going to go at the cellular level, right? So,
Mhm. Yeah, we call it actually homeostatic skincare. I think homeostasis is basically the end results of your body being able to perform at its best and
mhm,
not being overwhelmed and also not being deprived of
mhm,
nutrients of ingredients, etc. And the way that we view it is if I don't give you any active ingredients and I wrap it in a nice, name like clean or organic or whatever that is, that's great, but you're not going to get what you're paying for. I'm robbing you of the hopes and dreams that you might have
mhm,
had for better skin. On the other hand, you did mention, or we did talk before about medical grade skincare. The problem is that the aim at giving you the most effective and the strongest active ingredients in what is called medical grade skincare is a newer term to what was called results driven skincare.
okay.
And so results driven really, like the name suggests, is basically only looking at, okay, what are the results short term that we can provide the skin? And as you said about the happy medium, I actually think it's more of a triangle or a pyramid. I think it's the best of both. Is homeostatic skincare looks at how can we, targets the youth or bring the skin to a youthful state while taking care of the organism, because what we care about is that long-term resilience and youthful state that we can imbue the skin with.
Mhm,
So we do need to use some stabilizers and some obviously preservatives that are within a healthy range, microdoses of those. But we can use many, many different strategies and testing to see that the organism isn't getting disturbed. So we're not getting any endocrine disruptors or whatever that is, and still provide a results driven skincare. And that is something that is very difficult to explain. You cannot summarize it with like a nice, fashionable sentence or word. But
mhm.
I mean, I think the results, especially obviously long term, are what shows the righteous path, if you would. So I agree with you. What is your take on having talking about long term effects in the pursuit of beauty and the treatments?
Oh.
What is your view on things like Botox and fillers? With the vantage point of holistic health.
Yeah, so great question because my few friends that actually do it for a living are in the whole holistic health space as well, and we've had multiple conversations
Mhm.
about this. Um, I truly believe that my opinions or my lifestyle should not be impressed upon another person.
Agreed.
That's absolutely how I think. I don't judge anyone who wants to get Botox and fillers. In fact, I live by the philosophy that, if you look good, you feel better. I think I've shared with you offline, like, I had a patient one day who commented to me, um, I had an event to go to and I never wear makeup and I never do my hair for work. And I did this one day and she made this comment and I felt so bad. I thought, oh God, now I've just, in this environment, you don't want to stand out and
Yeah.
quote unquote be beautiful. And we had a wig salon at the hospital that was called Look Good, Feel Better. And she stopped me and she goes, no, the fact that you feel good like this is great. And I made that correlation to the look good, feel better sign.
Yeah.
And I actually adapted that to my life. Sort of the same analogy, glass half full, half empty type, whoever views it. They always say happiest people are the prettiest. So if something brings you joy, like I have a friend that owns a cake store. That brings her joy. She loves eating her cake. Okay, we know what sugar is going to do, but
Yeah.
if she's doing everything else that she can, and for her, I'd rather not live the extra 5 years. I'd rather enjoy my life. So be it. All you can do is teach, not preach. You cannot be telling people how to live their life. If someone getting Botox and fillers makes them feel great and you don't agree with it,
Don't do it.
don't do it. If there's genuinely though, if someone is doing something that is going to cause them harm, you've got to tell them, hey, this is what I think based on scientific data and why, but you're just giving them the information, you're guiding them, you're teaching them.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be preaching them. So great question, but I believe that we have one life to live. We should all live it. And if we are feeling great, we can do better. And in fact, that's called biohacking itself,
Yeah.
because studies have shown that stress and emotional trauma has been linked to disease. So if you're living happier, I mean, I'm not saying now, please don't go all crazy and have like 5 sit down McDonald's and do all the extremes. Like nothing in extremes works. But if you are living your life where predominantly you're doing fairly healthy and having the Botox and filler makes you have that confidence to walk into a room and to be the best version of you, go for it.
Amen. I mean, I couldn't have said it better, for sure. You maybe going back to look good, feel better. Can you share a story on how adopting that motto, that philosophy, has directly impacted a well-being of a client? Because I think this is maybe one of the most important connections to make between our feelings and our, obviously, the
Yeah.
placebo effect is a big part of medicine. One
Mhm.
time someone asked me about what I think about homeopathy, and I said, I use colloidal silver and some other things that are part of the family of homeopathic medicine. But really, what I think about homeopathy is that it is the 21st century solution to prescribing placebo, which is incredible. And so I really think that's one of the strategies of medicine, feeling good and
Mhm.
affecting our biology. But I'd love to find out how you're experiencing it.
Okay. I'm not going to share a client. I'm going to
Yeah, for
say
sure.
my overall approach.
Hmm.
So I feel like I've kind of alluded to some of that here today. I just think that, so when I was doing personal training and nutrition, being a health coach years ago, I was doing that in tandem while working in the medical field. And admittedly, a large part as to why I left it for a while was because I felt it wasn't aligned with me anymore.
Yeah.
I felt that I was overwhelmed with a number of individuals coming to me obsessed with looking a certain way. No judgment on my end. I'm not trying to say that I'm judging them. I just felt like I can't keep working 60 hours a week and then spending my time to help people who want to look a certain way when
Hmm.
it's not what my wiring is about. I'm not suited to them to help them.
Yeah.
So come full circle now with biohacking and being an integrative coach and what I'm super passionate about. My approach is a little bit different. I'm going to work with an individual to help guide them
Yeah.
without overwhelming them. What are your goals? I want you to feel good about yourself. If they are fixated on, you know, we're in a society with social media where everything is in your face and you're com- constantly comparing yourself to other people. Comparison's the thief of joy. Like
Yeah.
you're really like, so I look at it as in what would make you happy? And if they're fixating on all of these things that may not necessarily be realistic, part of it as well too is working with, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a mental health coach, but trying to help them look at things a little bit differently and trying to work with them for those little wins that brings in the joy.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're really tired and now you feel energized. You should be joyful about that. That's a win right there. So it's just shifting it, helping them still get to their goal, but you're giving them little small joys. And that's what I love calling it, small joys. What's your small
Hmm.
joy today? Like, you got up before your alarm. That's amazing. Like, so that's the approach that I take, as opposed to, you know, specific outlooks.
Yeah, I mean that's great. So let's talk about within that parameters of sharing where you are in your journey and kind of how people can resonate with that. A lot of people right now are finding out about biohacking, finding out about alternative wellness, and want to start their journey, but it is a very confusing, I think, journey to start, especially if you are aware of kind of self-feeding loops, and you're understanding that you don't want to like put all your eggs in one basket and just trust this one guy and just feel like you have a guru. A lot of people are looking for to understand how they can make decisions according to specific guidelines, if you would.
Hmm.
So as a health coach, like talking to Jesse, the health coach, the holistic nutritionist, um, what advice do you give someone who wants to start their biohacking journey? Not necessarily about skincare. Skincare can be a part of it, or skin health can be a part of it. But how do you balance, lifestyle changes and optimal health?
Ooh, that's a, for someone, because I'm looking at this from the lens of someone who is completely green and
Yeah.
maybe trying to get started, it can be very overwhelming. And
Hmm.
I always tell people as well, don't trust what I say completely.
Yeah.
Like, if something doesn't sit with you, go do your research, go do your due diligence, please. Because not everyone is right about everything. Like, we might be certain experts in certain areas, but it's still, you have to feel it in your gut, and you can't just follow one individual.
Yeah.
Um, I would say if there is something specifically that you want to work at. So I'm going to go back to skincare
Yeah.
because that's the quickest analogy that I can use. For example, like someone like myself, in the pandemic, that was the thing that was bothering me the most. Start with your nutrition on that. How is your
Hmm.
nutrition? How is your water intake? As I just see you drinking some water.
Yeah.
How's your hydration levels? And then, take it bit by bit. So then you're tackling that main thing that's bothering you that you want to work at right now. Because
Yeah.
if you try to run a marathon before you've learned to crawl, you are never going to get up, or you're going to be overwhelmed to even try to get up. So just taking these small steps and focusing on what's a priority to you, or what's something that you think you absolutely need to change now. If you are a smoker and you know that that's something that you want to change about yourself, focus on that first. If you've got, whatever it is, just
Yeah.
try small incremental changes. And when you've mastered that, or if you are someone who's capable of doing multiple, like you've mastered this and that in a week, like build on it.
Yeah.
So,
Great. That's actually very smart. I usually say, again, like a lot of what I say, it sounds great in my head, and I have no idea how it sounds to other people. But I call it, where does your ego park? Basically, we all have. I've never met anyone that is ego free. Rather, we all have areas where we identify with more, or our improvement in those areas affect us more deeply. And to some people it could be their skin appearance, some people it could be their abs, and to some people it could be the bank account, whatever that is. And that, connecting to what you're saying, which is extremely wise, we need to like find a focal point, basically find what we want to improve, and that would be our motivation to improve our gut health, our, whatever that is. Like, if we care about our skin and we understand that if our gut is leaky, then not only that, obviously we're going to get a lot of inflammation, which is going to impair like skin repair, etc., but also a lot of the collagen that we want to have, supporting our skin structure is actually going to be utilized to repair our gut lining, or
Mhm.
whether it is, athletic performance. And we understand that the only way we can excel at pickleball is if our brain is going to function correctly, and we need to address our leaky brain, or our brain fog,
Mhm.
or brain optimization. So just find a point that really sits close to home, and find a way to improve your overall health in order to get better at whatever that is. So I think what you said is like super wise.
Thanks. I don't think I'm that wise, but I
No, no, no,
appreciate
that
it.
was great.
I definitely need to take my own advice because one of the things I'm recognizing with myself is like it's so easy to I'm a type A personality, so it's so easy to focus on the tangible things.
Yeah.
Oh, I can fix my nutrition, I can fix my water intake, I can fix my supplementation. But for me, it's the mental aspect of it, the breath work, the anxiety and the stress. And I know better. That could be the number one cause. There's a lot of studies that link emotional trauma and physical stress to cancer. So
Yeah.
I do know better. So that is one thing. As I'm hearing you talk, I'm telling myself, yeah, you need to take your own advice as well and try to be a little bit better. Start small. So start with maybe 5-10 minutes of meditation in the morning. So I've been doing great this year, but I'm anticipating heading back into the medical environment, and I've already told myself you've got to try to do 5 minutes every day, incorporate it. So it's funny that you asked me that same question because I was actually trying to devise a plan for myself yesterday about how I'm going to incorporate the whole mental health breathwork aspect into my chaotic life in the next 6 months.
Well, I think that's the magic. And I think that's what's interesting to people who are listening now. That's really where inspiration and knowledge lies, is by you not having the perfect world, living on an island, and waking up every day to the song of birds or whatever, and can do whatever you
Yeah.
want. It's when you're in the trenches together with them, trying to figure out how to do things that are suitable to the experiences they're having. So I think it's now people are at a perfect position to kind of plug into your journey, and try to figure out stuff together with you. I think that's the
Yeah.
magic. Within that,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying that that's the goal, is that's ultimately strategically why I am moving back to Toronto, is that I feel like the biohacking community there is quite lacking.
Yeah.
I want to help build it. I'm not fully ready to have like I started my company and it was great working here, but I'm not fully ready to expand on it yet. That is the plan, working in tandem. That's why strategically I am going back to the hospitals to keep financing courses.
Hmm.
I'm taking it through Dr. Stephen Cabral, his integrative health
Yeah.
practitioner courses. So I want to be a bit more qualified to help individuals. So I'm also learning and growing in this process. And I'm 100% not knocking the medical field like that. It's just the alignment for me is just not quite there the way that it was. And I'm very super excited and passionate. So I'm very, you know, appreciative of anyone who's following along and supporting, knowing that I'm not perfect. I might be, have a 17-year career in radiation medicine and medical research. Fitness training and holistic, but this whole biohacking world, especially the responsibility switches when you're doing it on yourself to now passing that knowledge to somebody else. You
Yeah.
really have that responsibility. And for me, I really want to have that impact in a different way. So I need to do my due diligence first of making sure that I've, dotted my I's and done all that stuff before I transition to fully helping someone. So hopefully in 6 months, I'm a bit more established, and I look forward to people following along and supporting along the way and watching
Yeah.
me mess up as I go and learn. But that's part of biohacking, right?
Yes, it is. And I think that's the most important part, as we said, the community, and the feeling that you are a member of a tribe, in a journey together, that the journey is being taken together. Having said that, Jesse, where would people be able to follow along in the most effective way, and where would you like people to kind of consume the information that you put out there?
Probably on a social media.
Uh-huh.
My handle is at Integrative Biohacker. I promise that
Great
I am
handle,
going.
by the way.
I know when I saw that I snagged it because like that's how it describes me is that I felt like I was emerged between, the holistic
Hmm.
nutrition and fitness coach to the other world. So yeah, that's where I'll be. I took several years off of social media, so I only really just got back on this summer. I do have lots of great content that will be coming out, but please forgive me if I'm not as on the ball. It will be a bit challenging, but I really do hope that for those that don't necessarily have the financial means or are a bit overwhelmed, that I could try to find some way to help guide and navigate them. If not with me, then there's so many great people out there that have helped me, and they share so many great resources for free that I can
Yes.
even help direct them to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, integrative biohacker, uh, beautiful handle. People go consumer content, follow along. I can say that behind the scenes, Jesse is just a wealth of knowledge. So I'm
Thanks,
very, very
Amatei.
excited to have people kind of tuning to what you have to show them and say. And I personally really appreciate you coming on the podcast. We need more people like you. We need more people kind of sharing their journey. And I wish you all the best and
Thank you.
success. And yeah,
Thanks, Amatei. I really appreciate it. It's very humbling for me because I do feel like I'm a novice in this space and not really anyone that is any different than anybody else. So I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more.
no one
Thank
is
you.
different than anyone else. We're all the same. Anyway, thank you very much, Jesse.
Thanks
And obviously we're gonna be in touch.
for
And
sure.
thank you again. All right.
Thanks, Amatei.
All right,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.